Hi, I'm Geoff Stone, and welcome to another episode of the Lightning Studio podcast. Here with me today is Val Orth. Val, can you tell me what you do here at Goldie Beacom?
Yeah, so I work in the admissions office, so I recruit students, review applications, travel to high schools all over New Jersey, parts of New York, just trying to, get students to attend GBC.
And you went to GBC, right?
I did.
So how did you get to GBC?
Through the cross-country coach at the time. He was coming to a couple of my track meets, recruited me to come here. I was originally supposed to go to another school, and I wrecked my shoulder in the javelin, so they were Division I, so they weren't recruiting me anymore, so I just decided I'd come run cross-country at Goldie.
Didn't you end up playing soccer too?
I did.
Really?
Yeah.
So how did that happen from...
So I ran 2 years of cross-country, hated it. Running was really not my thing, so I played soccer in high school up until my sophomore year, and then I switched, but I decided that I wanted to go out for the soccer team, so I just talked to the coach and then I tried out.
So what was your experience like on the women's soccer team?
It was definitely a transition, especially because it was 4 years since the last time I played soccer, so it was different, a lot more running than I was used to. I mean, I know I ran cross country, but it was completely different. The team was a lot different than the cross country team as well, but overall, I mean, I think I made a great decision.
When did Dan Frick get here?
He was here my junior year. He was the goalkeeper coach.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So when did he transition your senior year, or was it after that?
I think it was my MBA year that he became the head coach.
Oh, wow. And what year did you graduate with your MBA?
17.
That must have been the year I got here, spring 17. So
Okay.
when 2017 just started.
Yeah, so I was just ending.
Wow,
Yeah.
wow, that's interesting. So what has the transition been like for you, as a student at GBC and now working at GBC?
It's a little different, It was cool because when I was a student, I knew everyone, and now I still know everyone, but more on a personal level. It's just weird, I was here as a student, I got recruited here, and now I'm going back and doing the same thing, talking to the same people that were talking to me. So there's not much of a difference, just it's weird.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel what you mean too, just kind of like, all the things you were doing as a student, it's like complete opposite
completely.
now. And, still trying to keep in, contact with the students, and like you're over on that side, and
Mm-hmm.
and I'm over here on this side, and now it's like completely different. But can you tell me a little bit about like what you do more in depth, like what you do for admissions, and like what kind of like how you go about getting students to come?
Yeah, so I'm basically the person, I kind of hold their hand up until they get here. So when somebody applies, I contact them, I review their application, I'm the one that will accept them, the one that gives them scholarship. I kind of help them fill out everything as far as finding the housing contract, finding things on financial aid, finding all those types of things. So more, like I said, I kind of hold your hand up until you get here, and I schedule students as well. I also go to high schools, like I said, so set up a table with GBC stuff, and whenever students come over, tell them about the college, tell them what we offer, our different majors, go over the costs, all the facts about the school. So.
And so who else works? Who else does that with you?
Austin, Joey, and Brittany.
Oh, wow. I remember, I think it was Brittany who I spoke with when I was coming in.
Yeah.
And, or like, it was my mom. A lot of it was my mom.
But same.
Yeah. But that's how it is. But yeah, so one of the big reasons I wanted to reference this story, because it's really cool, and I wanted to share it. Artur Svinchuk is, they're starting UPenn, and he was a student here at GBC with Shaheen, and they were on the soccer team, and when we were working on a project with him, he told me this story about how his first day at Goldie, like he got off the plane late, and he comes to Goldie, like coach drops him off, like he's driving around the back of Miller, and he's like, oh, there's some people, I'm just going to drop him off there, and like Arthur says, like, I get out and I had no idea I like needed things like a blanket or a pillow or like all that stuff. And you know, like he just didn't know anyone and literally shows up at night, and he says that you're one of the first people that met him and
Mhm.
kind of like welcomed him to GBC, and like, you know, and you guys were like outside, I think having like a barbecue or something. And I just think it's crazy that's that story, and you're still here, and now you're doing
Yeah.
it from a different angle. Can you tell me a little bit about like that time, like what Goldie was like at that time?
Yeah, so I actually moved back in the summer that summer because I was working cleaning the dorm rooms, and it was just weird because I knew that some of the soccer players were arriving that day. So I was hanging out with Andre and Raquel. They were already here as well. And it was just weird because a lot of them were showing up. The Spanish guys came all together. I know that Declan came, and then everyone kind of went back to their rooms, and I was still hanging out with it, like Raquel and Andre. And then here comes Arthur, and he was so super quiet. And I mean, he's coming to a different country. He doesn't know anyone, doesn't know what to expect. So when he sat down, we were just asking him, you know, how his flight was, how everything was, and we were like, okay, well, do you have sheets? Do you have a blanket? Like, are you good? Do you go to your room? Do you need help with anything? And he literally had no idea that he needed a blanket. He was like, I just assumed that these things would be provided to me. I'm coming to a different country. I have no idea. And I just happen to have spare stuff in my room. I just like to clean my sheets, wash my sheets all the time, change stuff. So I was able to give him new stuff. And I mean, I can't imagine what it's like just coming to a new country, especially at 18 years old. He had nothing.
Yeah, that's such a funny image. And then he tells a story later too that he like goes in, his roommate was Declan, and he like wakes Declan up. I can imagine that, like waking up.
And yeah, he has no idea who it is, you know.
Yeah.
Declan's like, who is this guy that's waking me up?
Yeah.
And Arthur arrived fairly late too. He was like the very last one to arrive.
Wow, and it's crazy to see how far, like, I wasn't there, you know,
Yeah.
and I saw like the tail end when they came in as like juniors and seniors, but you know, you were just telling me about like the transition, that, you know, how far they've come, and especially now with like just all of them in general, and being such close friends in that year, you know, that's crazy.
It is pretty weird because, like I said, they were so young. I was a junior, they were freshmen coming in, and I look back on it now, and you know, I'm still here, and I still see what they're doing over in Germany, and you know, Declan's over in Scotland, and Fernando and all them are over back in Spain, and it's just so weird to see, you know, how they transition from freshmen until now.
Yeah, and they really are lifelong friends. Like they're meeting up in Brazil in a couple of weeks, and it's really cool. It's incredible to see. You know, and it's just like there's a special kind of bond with that group specifically, like just in the international population, like you see it a lot. You know, and like we're not there anymore, so we don't really know what it's like. I always try to like bug and say like, well, how's everything going? Like, you know, and we want to start up like an international student association again, and like kind of like help some of that stuff, because I think that what you touched on, like helping like them, like they come here and they have no idea like what they're gonna need, and like like you said, I can't imagine going through that myself, and you know, but like trying to like partner up maybe like you know, international students who have been here and like are returning with like new students, and let them know like, hey, you know, like this is the stuff that, you know, this is what's around us, this is the stuff we have, this is what you'll need. It's nuts.
Yeah, I was gonna say, actually my sophomore year I invited 15 international students to come to my house for Thanksgiving. So my mom cooks every single year, and my sophomore year was the first year, and I had 15 international students come to my house. They just made a bunch of desserts and hung out with my family. They all spent the night at my house. I have pictures of us like all passed out in the living room the next morning. And it, like, my mom still talks about it to this day. She's always like, I just wish that, you know, I miss that group of people. And I continued that up until I graduated.
Really?
Every year. I had about 15 to 10 students come home with me every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
It was a ton of fun. It was a ton. And it's weird because, you know, like, they're not used to it. And being so far away from home, you're not with your family. And you know, it kind of stinks when you're here for a holiday, especially being an international here. Even during Christmas break, it's like, you know, everyone's home with their family and you're just kind of stuck here. So, you know, I tried to do the best that I could, and I would bring, like I said, bring students home with me any opportunity that I could.
And that's like the root of the family atmosphere at Goldie.
Yeah.
I feel like those moments, those like late night parties, or you know, like the get-togethers with that group that we're always together, especially like, you know, like we don't have class on Fridays, so people go home. But like I've always felt like when you stay and you hang out with that group, or you know, just friends in general staying on campus, like that's when you really experience that. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
that's really what it was. You know, people are just hanging out because they're here. They're by themselves. Of course, you know, there's only 3 people on campus. You want to hang out because you don't want to be by yourself. So that's kind of that's what started it. I was like, you know what, I had international roommates, and I'm like, why don't you guys come home with me? And then I found a few more that were staying here for the holidays, and I'm like, all right, well, let's all just come home with me.
Yeah, that's so awesome. That's so cool. That's where I got really lucky. Is I moved in and I lived with Joe Trainer, just Joe, for the first half of the semester, and then Guy moved in. So then that's when it wasn't until the second half of my first semester here that I really met that group. And then the next year I was, you know, hung out with the soccer team a lot and did that documentary. And just recently Coach Dixon asked me for some of the photos, and I don't think he ever knew that I took a bunch on like just my phone and uploaded them to that Instagram. So I'm gonna link it in the comments of this podcast, but I compiled an album of all of those photos just because it's so cool to go back and like either watch that stuff or like see, because like you said, I miss that group, you know, and like it's like that time where you feel like you're living in this moment, and you know it's like not gonna last forever, but you got photos and memories, of course, you know.
I mean, I think that's the same thing, you know. It's hard because you make some really good friends, and you're gonna have friends, you know, that are from all over the world, and it sucks when they leave, but you know that, like I said, when you want to travel somewhere, that they're gonna be there. And then you have the photos as well.
Yeah, all of the invites too.
All the invites.
Yeah, it's just the plane ticket you got to worry about now.
We're already planning World Cup.
Really?
In New Jersey, yeah.
Wow. Oh yeah, because it's coming to the U.S. That's crazy. Yeah. That's awesome. So you have a really unique perspective of GBC, and I don't feel like I even know your whole perspective, but you've been around for how long?
A while. Since 2012.
And you, like, first as a student, and now seeing all these changes, like you've been like in the heart of all of it. What's your perspective of like everything that's going on? And
I mean, everything's changing, which I think is pretty awesome. Like I said, when I went here, things were a lot different, but from my freshman year till now, you know, I interned in athletics, and then I left for a little while, and then I came back, and just as far as the construction, the new dorm room, like Goldie's really making changes. You know, the soccer field came, unfortunately, the year after I left, but everything is, you know, it's being bigger and better.
Yeah, and I feel like one thing that I didn't even know is like the year before I got here, we didn't even have key cards to get in the doors.
I didn't have key cards.
You didn't have key cards?
I had a key to get into my...
That's crazy.
Yes.
And then we got the passcode locks, and...
I didn't have those either.
That's crazy. So from like from your admissions perspective, and like when you're speaking to students, like do you feel like your experience at GBC and like what you like being a student and living a lot of those things that we were just talking about has helped you like kind of show students that like what they're going to be getting?
Yeah, so I think I think it definitely helps me, especially because I sometimes do have students. Even today I had students ask me, well, did you go to this college? And I said yes. And they're like, okay, tell me everything that you loved about it. And it's easy because I went here. I can speak straight from the heart. I can tell you exactly what I loved about the place. And it's not like I have to sugarcoat anything. I'm not trying to just sell you on a school because I work there. I'm selling it because I went there and I loved it. So yeah. I think it definitely helps.
What are some of those things that you love about it?
One thing, no Friday classes.
Yeah.
Absolutely love that. The dorm rooms definitely helped, you know, having the apartment style. Kind of how the classes run, the class schedule, you know, by my senior year, I was going to school twice a week, so I thought that was pretty awesome, being able to have my car. And another thing, I didn't want to go too far from home, and I live, an hour away, so that was another big thing for me. But also the small classes, I always tell students, if you don't want to just be a number, you're not, professors are going to know who you are. And I always stress, and I can't stress it enough, is even when Dr. Wirt was the president, like, I knew him, and like, you go to a big school, you're not going to know who your president is. And especially with Colleen now, she's around everyone, she knows everyone, she wants to meet the students. And I'm like, you're not going to find that anywhere. It's so family oriented here.
Yeah, no, Colleen has been great. And
she has.
Yeah, and really brought like a fresh perspective,
Yeah.
and the energy is shifting, and I just feel like there's a lot of like hope within it, and it's weird now because of the building situation, and we always talk about that, but I just feel like it's gonna skyrocket, and especially with like Franta coming in, and is it Franta or Franta?
Franta.
Franta. Someone asked me the other day, and I was like, Franta, but don't say I said that,
Yeah.
because I've heard it both
It's
ways.
Franta.
So besides the things that you just said, kind of like, what are those kind of the things that you tell the students, kind of like, this is what, like you'll be getting when you come to Goldie, and this is what you'll be experiencing?
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of just go over some of the majors, just let people know what we have and what we offer here. And then I always like to emphasize the good things, because they're going to take home a pamphlet, but are they really going to read it if they have a whole bag full of stuff? So I kind of like to pinpoint things right from the jump. That way they're like, okay, that's going to stick in their head. Whenever you tell students that they don't have Friday classes, they're like, oh my God, I'm coming here. So I love to, I love to mention that. And even the small class sizes, because some students are looking for that. Some students don't want to just be a number. They don't want to just, show up to a lecture hall with hundreds of students. They want to feel like they have a purpose, and I tell them, and here you're going to, you're going to have a voice, even if you're in a class with 30 students, you're still going to have a voice.
That's what I fell in love with about GBC, was that you don't get lost. Like if you want to be involved in a student organization, or if you want to, start something, or like, you have that opportunity. I mean, just look at, who we were talking about, Arthur and Shaheen, like they started an app, and 2 apps, and like, it's crazy to think about, but then, like you're here and you can do that, and your friends and people and your professors and the administration, like I've experienced it, they support you, and I think that like that's what, like, one of the reasons why I came back is the support that you get from the people around you. Is like, it's not like I went to a community college too before I came here, and community colleges aren't very big, but I just wanted to go to class and go home, and like, I played baseball, so it was like class, practice, and go home, and I didn't make a lot of friends, and there wasn't that environment, and I didn't feel like I connected well with the professors. But here it was like completely different. Like the English department for me specifically, like I've just latched on to them, and like they taught me so much in class, but then outside, like when we worked on that book, like they were all involved in that, and then still even now, like just to be around the English department and them has been so impactful to me, and so like it just helps me move forward in the things that I want to do, and so it's interesting, and
Well, it's not only that, the professors care, so you're still going to keep in touch with them even, 4 or 5 years from now. Like Professor Thurley, for example, I know a lot of students, Gabby, my roommate, still occasionally will send him an email just to reach out, and it's like the professors actually care,
Yeah.
They'll contact you, you contact them, and they're willing to give you references, they're willing to help you with whatever you need.
So, so back to, like when you're speaking to students and parents, do you feel like you're kind of like, when you're going through and you're speaking to them, is it more selling to the students or is it to the parents?
It really depends. So I do sell to both. So I have morning fairs, which are mostly just students, and then our nighttime fairs are mostly parents and students. And it depends, because students want to hear things one way, parents care about the cost, they care about the safety, they care about different issues than what the students are going to care about. So I definitely do think it's a little bit different depending, like I said, whether it's the parent or not.
And so when you're speaking to students and parents now, are you kind of selling the things that are gonna be here?
Yeah.
And so how are you going about phrasing that?
So we are selling the new frontal hall, so the new residence living area. For us, it's not too difficult just because most colleges have meal plans. Most colleges don't have apartment style until, you know, your junior or senior year. So when you're speaking to these parents and these students, it's not too hard to sell because they don't know really any better.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And what about some of the new spaces too? Like, so, you know, because sometimes it's hard for me to wrap my head around like looking at the mock-ups and the renders. Like, it's so interesting to see, and then like we see all the updates from construction, and like I just can't wait to go kind of see like what, like when you can kind of visualize, like walk through and just be like, oh, I know what this is gonna look like. So like what, or like is there a big focus on like the future of student engagement and how things are gonna kind of change like on campus and with the events and activities?
I mean, I definitely think things are going to be a lot different. It is hard to imagine, especially right now when we do tours. It's kind of hard to sell what's not there, but what's going to be there. But you just have to make it as exciting as possible, you know? Like, again, it's easy to bring my experience back in because I can say what it was like when I went here, and then I'm like, you know, things are changing, and I can see it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Things are different than when I went here. There's new dorm coming up, there's new food services, there's, you know, new meeting space, there's new locker rooms, there's new fitness center. When I started here, the fitness center was a box. It was literally a shoebox with like 3 treadmills and a little bit of equipment, and then they expanded it, and then they expanded it again.
Mm-hmm.
So I think with like the new meeting area, students will have more time to kind of hang out, more places to be themselves. You know, students don't always want to be around staff. They don't always want to be around the professors. They want, you know, their own time where they can be students. And they don't want to do it in these common areas in this building. They want it away from everyone else.
And now what some of the other, you know, like colleges are offering, it's kind of like things are just moving so quickly everywhere. And like, you know, and like that's what we feel from like the activities and the organizations is like, what can we offer, like you said, to give them a place? Because for me it was different, you know, it was like always this filmmaking stuff, and you know, like we could just do that anywhere, and you know, some people just like to hang out in their, you know, the dorm or their room or with their friends, but you always want to have something or some place that they can go. You know, like we talk about, like right now we have the gaming club meets weekly, and there's like some regular students that come, like, and you know, you think about what it would happen if it was bigger, not the gaming club, but the population, and also if it was more regular, like we talk about, like, what if we had it 2 times a week, and because it's just like a place for them to go and have fun, and you know, meet new people. You meet people that you didn't really think you'd meet before, and I think that like because that's what I'm always trying to do, like especially being in student affairs, like in this position now, like from being a student last year and having no idea about all of this, and then now here, and it's our job to like work in student engagement. I'm trying to wrap my head around what it's going to look like, and I just keep trying to say that like it's got to be these common spaces that people are going to be hanging around at, and that those are like the focus, and it's really interesting to see.
Yeah, I was gonna say definitely the common areas. When I went here, like I said, it was the same thing. We didn't have anywhere to really go, especially when the building was closed at night. We ended up going out in the parking lot, and we would just call them the parking lot parties, and everyone would come. Everyone would come out of their dorms and just hang out in the parking lot because, you know, there's nowhere else to go on campus. That, or we would go to the pavilion and the basketball court and just hang out there because, you know, there was nowhere else to go. So with new meeting spaces coming, I mean, it's definitely going to help that problem.
Yeah, I never really like the only times we hung out at the pavilion was like do you remember the athletics barbecue? That was awesome. And then like, but outside of that, like I always felt like it'd be nice to throw like a big, you know, thing. It's like
See, when I went, we had a lot of barbecues in the spring, and we put a slip and slide out there. So I don't even know where we got the tarp from, but we had a tarp, and we would put it like down the hill, and we got a hose from, I don't even know where the hose came from either, but we had a hose out there, and we would have slip and slide. One of my friends had a hammock, she set it up in between the trees, and that's where everyone hung out in the spring when the weather was nice. You know, somebody had a grill. We were constantly, the internationals were always grilling chicken hearts. That was a really big thing, chicken hearts.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I hear, like, when I got here, Joe was telling me about how the population grew. As, like, I don't, like, how big was the on-campus population when you were here? Like, it wasn't very big, was it?
Yeah, I'm not really sure if, like, what the numbers were. I mean, it was big. There was a lot of, I don't think there was, like, a lot of empty rooms or anything, but I just think the atmosphere, it changed a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't even know how it changed, but, like,
yeah.
It did change a little bit.
Yeah, because I feel like we were both involved in those, you know, like, in our both time, those, you know, great GBC parties. Like, I remember when the seniors left, the seniors we were talking about, 2017, 2018, when they graduated, like, their graduation night, like, we went somewhere, and then when we came back to campus, like, the sun came up, and we were still going, like, out on the hill, and, like, we have pictures of them just kind of, like, best friends, you know, and, like, you know, it's incredible, and, you know, you still wonder if, like, like, the students today are experiencing that, and...
Yeah, I mean, I wonder that sometimes, because we had some fun parties.
Yeah.
We used to throw carnival right here on campus, with all the Brazilians, and it was fun, you know?
Yeah. And it's odd talking about it from this perspective.
Yeah.
You know, because, like, now, it's like, you know, I'm in student affairs, it's like, no underage drinking, like,
no.
Yeah, like, I'm, like, I'm on call sometimes, so it's like, but at the same time, it's like, hope you guys are still having fun, safe, you know,
fun.
but fun. But yeah, it's interesting, and like, luckily, like, those guys, like, and girls that were here, like, before that, you know, experienced that, like, they are here long enough, and they pass it down, and there's students now that, you know, still try their best to keep everybody together, and like, hopefully that continues. So it's like the legacy, you know, your legacy and their legacy, like, it lives on. So open house is coming up soon, and so and is it all right if I mention?
Yeah.
So you're in charge of organizing open house. So what kind of things are you trying to do differently this time? And
there's a couple things that I'm trying to do differently. So one thing that we're going to try that we've never done before is separating parents and students on tours. Like I said, we've never done it before. I got the idea from this gentleman that came to speak to athletics. He always talked about how when recruits are on campus, it's really crucial to separate the parents and then let the athlete go off with, you know, other teammates. So I kind of got this idea where, hey, maybe this would be cool if the students can go off and meet with other students, and they can talk about the dorms, they can talk about it, you know, somebody on their perspective.
Because you mentioned that, like, when we were talking about it earlier, you told me this before, that it's two different things. There's two different values. I'm not really, like, I don't really understand it too much, but I can see what you mean. Like, when you get the student with other students, you're like, well, what's this like? Like, what are the professors like? And, you know, this or that, and then the parents are completely different. That's a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, because when the student is with another student, they're going to ask, hey, how are the parties? You know, how's campus life? How's this? But if their parents are around, you know, they're not going to ask those questions.
Yeah.
And then the same thing with the parents. You take the parents on the tour, and they want to know about the safety, you know. They aren't fun that, you know, the floors are co-ed. They want to know that their little girl is safe. They want to know, like, about the safety. They want to know about the cost. They want to know about all the other things that the students don't necessarily care about.
Yeah.
So my idea is kind of to separate them so that they both get a perspective. I really would like to hold some type of workshop while the students are out. I want the parents to either learn about career services, financial aid, meet with some professors. Just really something different,
Yeah.
you know, something we've never done, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it
Yeah.
goes well.
Because Fiona was on the podcast. Jory and Fiona were the first episode, and they mentioned like someone saying that they don't need to go to open house, and I mean like, just come
Yeah,
come
just
to
come.
open house. Like Val is here. She was a student. Like she's trying to do things, you know, differently. And
I mean, I always try to sell it to potential students at fairs because a big question that they always ask me is, how's campus life?
yeah.
And instead of going into it, come check us out, you know, come to campus. You know, we can sell you once you're here, but
Yeah.
I can only tell you so much. You need to come see it for yourself.
That's what happened with me. I came and visited in like October, and Coach Tom Riley, the baseball coach, walked me through campus in like the fall, and Goldie looks beautiful in the fall. And like I was just like, this place is just gorgeous. Like you don't really know how small it is the first time you're there.
Yeah,
It doesn't
you don't-
matter in the
no.
end. Like, you know, even though like it was small, and I still got lost my first 2 weeks, maybe month or so. But yeah, no. And then you also had a good idea of you know, like, because you want to leave that lasting impression with them about like what they would take away from GBC. So hopefully you know, we can put together something nice to show them at the front. We're working together on something. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, is there like kind of anything else that you wanted to share, or like, you know, about like your perspective of GBC and where you see things are going, and what you like about it now?
I mean, all the things that I liked about it before, I like about it now. I just see it in a different perspective, you know. I see it more on a business kind of side than I did as a student. Like I said before, with construction and everything changing, I think, you know, we're going to have more students, we're going to have more student engagement, you know, coming out to more activities. I know that's always been kind of tough, you know, my freshman year. I was kind of shy my freshman year. I didn't really venture out too much. And then it was more when my sophomore year, when I had friends that were older, the friends that were going to different events, is when I started going out to more things.
Well, Val, I'm really glad that you could be here. You know, Tam, I'm glad we could have you on and share, you know, your perspective and these stories. Is there anything else, you know, kind of that you wanted to share about your time at GBC, like the family atmosphere or anything like that?
Yeah, I definitely wanted to shout out Brian Conley. He was the cross-country coach at the time that I was here. He's the one that actually recruited me and stayed on top of recruiting me. He passed away my junior year, but he was kind of the reason that I stayed here for so long. He was a phenomenal coach, and then I ran cross-country again for him my sophomore year. And it wasn't until he came up to me my junior year, right before my junior year, and he was like, listen, I'm not coaching anymore. He told us everything that had happened to him. And he was the one that told me, you should go out for the soccer team. Like, I know you're not happy running cross country. And so for me, that was so much more than really anything, you know. He cared like about, you know, how I was feeling and about everyone else. So just the family atmosphere from him. And then I always say Miss Renee, who used to work in the cafe, who now works over in admissions with us, she is my Goldie mom, is what I call her.
She's the best.
She is. We shared some great times together. We've laughed, we've cried,
Yeah.
we've done everything. So, you know, just the family atmosphere here.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. Yeah, and we're so glad to have you, of course, here too, and you've been a big part of that family atmosphere. So glad to have you on, and of course, glad to have you at GBC.
Well, thank you, Geoff.